Clear blue skies in the Place du General de Gaulle and the 93rd running of Paris-Roubaix. Hello again, I'm Phil Liggett and welcome along. Yes, it's a beautiful spring day here in France and the riders, I think, will be thankful for that, because this, without doubt, is the hardest of all of the classic races. It's the one that many riders refuse to ride. Those who do come here don't want to be in the race, but you know, for the man who wins it, then it means he'll be famous quite simply forever. Let's have a look at some of the riders who really are here, bidding for another victory in Paris-Roubaix. The grand old man of French cycling, now approaching his 41st birthday, is Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle. And the obvious question to ask Gilbert, the winner in 92 and 93, was he going to win again?
Duclos, vous avez la grande forme pour ces classiques comme toujours?
Oui, comme toujours.
Yes, I always have the grand form, and I want to win this race for another time. After winning a stage last week in Pays Basque, I think I can do it. You're now 40 years of age, yet you still have the good form. Yes, I'm 40 years of age, but I'm still riding well, and I'm still enjoying it, and I can still do my job riding the velo.
Merci.
So Duclos-Lassalle will have to face Fabio Baldato, named as one of the favourites this morning, and so too was Steve Bauer. Steve, memories back almost, well, 5 years, and the weather was similar on that occasion. Are we going to see you second or first this time?
Well, I'm feeling very good coming up to this race. I did some good racing before Paris-Roubaix, and it's been my focus since I started training this spring. And I feel good. You know, I had a pretty good crash on Wednesday, and I'm banged up, but I think I've recuperated enough. I'm ready to do a good race.
Bauer second back in 1990 to the Belgian Eddie Planker by a centimetre. Olaf Ludwig, another pre-race favourite, always rides well here, and Frankie Andreu of Team Motorola, a favourite. The biggest newspaper in the world for sports put you among the favourites this morning.
I'm happy to hear that. All I have to do is prove them right now. So it's going to be a tough day. The sun's shining. It's going to be very fast. I mean, much faster than last year. So it's going to be a big battle for position. And a lot of it's going to be staying in the front. And I'm just going to try my best, try to get there.
Andre Schmil, who shocked everybody with a brilliant ride 1 year ago to win this race. He's come back here with the great form and the likelihood he could do it again, having just finished third in the Het Vault and third in the Tour of Flanders. And one man who knows all about Paris-Roubaix is my co-commentator Paul Sherwin. Paul, how many times have you ridden Paris-Roubaix?
I rode 7 times, but I must admit today's a really beautiful day for Paris-Roubaix. There was not the snow that was around here last year, and I think we'll see an excellent race. And there's 1 or 2 pretenders out there for the overall victory, and really I wouldn't like to put my money on anyone.
Oh, you've got to. Give me a winner.
really put me under pressure. It really is, it's difficult to say, Phil, because Ballerini would have been a #1 favourite, had a bad crash last week. I would have said Bauer was a great favourite. He's bruised and battered as well. Museo fell off this week, so really it's hard to go out there and say, but I think one of those riders who were up there last week, I think in the Tour of Flanders, is going to be up there again today. But let's not forget Duclos Lassalle had a great win this week in Pays Basque. It could be Duclos.
And it could indeed. It could also be Sean Yates, the British rider who in the last 3 years has finished 13th, 8th and 5th.
Sean, is this the last time you're going to line up for Paris-Roubaix?
I don't know. There's a possibility that I may ride on Core next year, so who knows.
You've come to love this race over the years. You've always ridden so well, especially these last 3 years in it.
Yes, it's a race that suited my abilities. You know, it's pretty flat and it's for big, strong boys like myself. And you know, I get motivated for this race. It's one of the few races I get motivated for, and you know, hence the results.
I tell you, Gilbert Duclos Lassalle last night on television said, "Watch out for the Englishman Sean Yates." What do you think of that?
You know, he's a wise old man, and he's seen that I've sort of I'm coming up over the years, and you know, we go back a long time. I used to be his teammate in Peugeot in the early 80s, so you know, I think he has some respect for me.
And you're going to be looking for the move today?
Yeah, you've got to keep your eyes open.
And there's another man injured, Tour de Flanders winner Johan Museu.
Johan, the pressure's on you to be the first man to do the double with Flanders since Roger de Vlaming. But the first question, how's the knee?
I don't know. After Gan-Wilhelm, I don't train, so I don't know how it is. We shall see today.
So the 24 teams are on the start line, and while Johan Museu worries about his knee, the rest of the riders in this race simply worry about the cobblestones. The Queen is about to reveal her secrets once more. Let's now go to the action.
And as we approach the Forest of Arenberg now, we have two riders, and rider number 61 at the back of the field here is Gilbert Duclos Lassalle. He's had a problem with a flat tyre and he's being taken back into the group. Well, so the man who will be 41 years of age in August is now finding that Paris-Roubaix gets no easier at all. The charge is massing. This breakaway is coming back, and there's the main field rejoining, and they've all come together again, led by André Schmiel. His face tells you the pace that they've been setting. They are now massing for the entry into the forest, and back in the team cars, Gilbert Duclos Lassalle is taking all the help he can get here. In fact, it's Christophe Capel who's pacing him back up to the group. Into the forest with the head of the field. The crowd enormous as ever, and to try and stop them spilling onto the road, there have been some barriers placed, although I must say they're not in great evidence right now. 2.5 kilometres of cobblestones, and the riders hitting them very, very quickly indeed today, because the temperatures, surprisingly enough, in the mid-70s. To the left of our camera, the riders seeking the grass trails, and Frédéric Moncassin for the Novell team is setting the pace. He was the unlucky man at the Tour de France last year, you may recall. He fell off the presentation stage just before the Tour began and never got to start because he broke his ankle. So Moncassin going through for France, riding on the Novell team, the new team that took over from Word Perfect this year. And surprisingly, nobody seems to be in any difficulty at the back of the group at all at the moment. There's at least 60 or 70 riders here. There were 24 teams took the start this morning, and they were allowed a maximum of 8 riders per team. One of the two of the teams only starting with 6 men though. And Moncassin finding the pressure on at the front. It's best to see where you're going though. He's quite happy to lead through this gap. The crowd a lot more orderly as they go through the first serious stretch of the cobblestones today. The riders pedalling fairly big gears as they go through the cobblestone. Museo just gone through our camera wearing a white jersey as leader of the World Cup competition. Schmiel wasn't far off his back wheel. There's Cipollini going through. But this is a very unusual journey through the Forest of Arenberg today, because the riders are not in any sort of trouble at all. A big field. Duclos Lassalle is on at the back. And still Moncassin. Jean-Marie Leblanc on the right of the two in the front. Organiser of the Tour de France and of course Paris-Roubaix. And will be a little bit relieved that everything is in order here in the forest today. As you can see now the barriers and the effect that they've had after last year when the riders were engulfed by the crowd, all trying to see what was going on. And although Duclos Lazal was the rider who fell in the forest last year, it really wasn't the crowd who did it, it was his own volition, but even so, they were a little bit in the way. So out of the forest, and not a lot of damage done this time. Plenty of riders still up here at the front. Just a slight little split, but that won't matter because there'll be a mass regroupment now as they get out onto the good smooth roads for a few kilometres as well. And not surprisingly, a good time to start the attacks again. And tempting them to go clear here. One of the Italian riders, and there's plenty of riders willing to take up the chase. So this is the Mappe rider here now, and this is Andrea Taffi, who's trying to go clear. Taffi is a rider I remember and met for the first time in the old Tour of America, which was down in Florida, when we hadn't heard of him till he popped up and won a stage down there in Fort Lauderdale. Well, he's ridden with one or two good reports and good rides, but you never know when he's going to deliver the good ones. He's now trying to get a little breakaway going here. An early breakaway, always useful to see just who is the strength and who wants to come out. Wilfred Nelson, just off the right of our picture, the black top to his jersey there, the Belgian champion, the rider involved in that horrendous crash at Montier in the Tour de France last year in the opening stage, back in the action and back winning. And in the lead of the head of the peloton here, which is bringing back this breakaway group. There's still 110 kilometres to go to the finish, and the men are just going to keep out of trouble at the moment. The riders who feel they can be in at the kill near the end when the cobblestones are at their worst. Unusually large peloton down there today, but they're enjoying very, very warm, abnormally spring-like conditions here in France, and the weather is all over Europe today. The sort of day that the riders pray for and the spectators and the journalists hate, because they really do enjoy seeing the riders up to their ears quite literally in mud. Well, the Mappe team, they've had a great start to the year and are continuing it. They had a win in Het Volk with Franco Ballerini. But Ballerini, a crash victim, in fact a surprise start to the day. There was rumour he wouldn't make the start because he was, we thought he'd broken his shoulder in the crash last week. But his team manager said half a Ballerini is better than none, and they put him in the race. High gear and a good rhythm on the cobblestones, and I suppose that way they don't hurt quite so much. So the early breakaways have been brought to heel, and the main field all back together again. There are prizes as ever for the king of the cobbles. There are 22 sectors counting down, and the first three riders out of each sector receive points. The overall points total with the most, he runs out and takes away the prize. A lot of good pacemaking being done here by Taffi. Very strong rider indeed, and there is the big man, Mario Cipollini. If he gets to the velodrome at Roubaix, then he has a real chance of winning the sprint, of course, but the question is, can he get there? Johan Capio not too far behind either. Another man who always rides well in the Belgian classics, and this really, although it's in France, is a Belgian-type classic race. For that reason, 46 victories have gone to Belgium over the years. That's the outright record, and 29 to the French, and those two nations well clear of everybody else. The Italians have won it 8 times, but they owe 3 of those victories straight to Francesco Moser, 78, 79 and 1980. Well, we're coming to the end now of Sector 12 of the cobblestones, and this is Bert Dietz of the Telecom team, who's trying now to coax somebody out of that leading group, which is around about 45 riders strong, but it's picking up all of the time as the remnants of the peloton are getting back across once these cobbles are replaced by the smooth pavé, smooth roads. Telecom have always ridden well, but this isn't a Telecom rider, this is a Mappe rider down there now. And that could well be Andrea Taffi, still trying to put the pressure on. Dietz looking over his shoulder, and this is Taffi coming up to him. So we've got 2 riders, they've been very aggressive, Taffi especially, obviously has orders from the Mapei team to keep the pace high and make the others chase down, because in that lead group they still have all of the men that they require. Johan Museo, Ballerini, Vortolami are all in that lead group, and Ludwig Willems is also in there. So they have many candidates for victory at the end, and that's probably why they're forcing the pace like this. And now this is Eric van der Aarden here, trying to move up, the winner of this race in grand style back in 1987. The race was slightly shorter by just a couple of kilometers then, but he's on a good move here, and going forward too with him. Number 102 is Vyacheslav Yekimov. Well, it's the first time that Yekimov has come to Paris-Roubaix, and he's getting a good feel for it right away. He's got a strong man in van der Aarden. They're trying to catch up, in fact, with Dietz and Taffy, and they're doing a good job. We're going to have 4 riders in the lead now, and with something like 93 kilometers to go to the finish. The Telecom team, a strong team, all German riders. Taffy, Yekimov, so he's got a strong backing in the main field from Team Novell, and Eric van der Aarden, always a point to prove for Eric, because he was sacked from the team of Jan Raas, and now he's gone over to Italian teams the last couple of seasons, and he seems to have some good form. Taffy, nice little position there, nice slow position, just keep tapping out the tempo. This is an early move, I think, by Yekimov, though. I really wouldn't have expected Yekimov to have come quite so soon to the front, unless there is something that we don't know about in the move. A minute 13 is a good gap. Vyacheslav Yekimov now on the colours of Team Novell, winner last year of the Tour du Pont. That was his big win. He'll be back there later in this season as well. Now, the advice from the boss, because what we're getting here now is Juan Fernandez telling Taffy exactly what he's got to do. He's going to tell him that back in that group is the men that matter, Museo and Ballerini, and Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle. Showing the concern too as to what is going on in that breakaway of 4 riders, Dietz, Taffy, van der Aarden and Yekimov. And there you can see and in fact there's a fall down there, and that's Cipollini who's gone down, the man in the yellow. And Cipollini, Schmill is also delayed. Andre Schmill, last year's winner, and the rest are just picking their way through. So they need service and need it quickly. They've fallen on a right-hand bend. Not a serious fall, but the delay is serious. And Cipollini is away. But Schmill is not looking as though he's getting quite a quick change there. He's waiting for his team card to come through. This is the big disadvantage, of course, of Paris-Roubaix, and the one fear of everybody. And then these riders trying to get back through the melee as well. So that's going to be a tough chase now for Andre Schmill, and not the sort of thing you want at this stage of the race, inside 90 kilometers from the finish. Taffy sitting at the back of the 4 now. Blissfully unaware of the tumble behind, but they can come at any minute in Paris-Roubaix. The gap is somewhere around a minute and 35 seconds. Now the advantage of the team here. Look at the Nobel riders blocking off at the front. Edwin van Hooijdonk on the right. Back in 1986 when he turned pro, he finished 5th in this race, and everybody predicted then a great future for him. And since then, of course, he's won the Tour of Flanders twice. Sector 10 of the cobbles, and the gap has shot up now to 2 minutes 15 seconds. 4 riders, and the most likely to succeed if it came down to a sprint, I suspect, will be van der Aarden, but there's still a long way to go with the worst of the cobblestones to come. There's van der Aarden. He's going to feel pretty content with the way things are going, because in Yekimov he has a very strong pacemaker, and it looks as though Taffy has now been told to stop working with this group. It's worked a little bit too good, this move, and Taffy's been told to sit on the back of them. Nelson stands out, about 8 or 9 men back in that Belgian Championship jersey. A number of Lotto riders for Andre Schmill at the back, which indicates to me that they've got him back into the race, and he's back up with this lead pack. Baldato is also here, and this is a race that Baldato would love to win after his fine ride a year ago. The French make no doubt as to who they support. There's Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle with that fine, larger-than-life French flag there. And still Taffy sits at the back. Cheers there for Steve Bauer too, very popular rider. there, in fact, is Bauer coming through on the inside now, trying to make his way through to the front. He said he was been motivated by this race this year. The Motorola boys have had Wieben Wienstra on the early attack. He's fallen back now. And now we've got Steve Bauer setting the pace here, and right on his wheel we've got Johan Museeuw. So that's the reason that Taffy has turned off, because the breakaway has gone up to 2 minutes 47 seconds, and Taffy would like to see Museeuw make a little bit of progress now. Clearly his knee is not giving him any problems, otherwise he wouldn't be setting the pace like this. Museeuw turned pro back in 1988, won the Tour of Flanders a couple of years ago, and indeed last week. Twice winner now of the Tour of Flanders in Belgium. A sprinter who's become an extraordinarily good classic rider. Prefers to forget 1992 when he broke his hip just before the World Championships. But he's come back well from that. It hasn't affected him at all. Taffy. Now the cobbles, this is normally a very, very muddy stretch indeed, but it's a matter of dodging the piles of dirt there, which is dry and very slippery. 2:37 back to the group now, but this in fact is Johan Museeuw here. And they've chosen this section of cobbles now to try and do something about it. We've gone on through Orchies, where we saw the crash of Schmil and Cipollini. And the dust now becoming a little bit of a problem, but the riders will have their clear lenses on today, and hopefully the dust will stay out of their eyes. Looks as though Ballerini is now beginning to set the pace at the front. So maybe Ballerini too is not suffering too much from his injuries in the week. Museeuw just checking to see who's answering the pace. Well, little Steve Bauer is. That very squat style of his, a lot of power comes out of those legs. The man that lost this race by a millimetre in 1990, and then on the drive back to his home base he lost his bike. It flew off the roof of the car as a total write-off. Bauer keeping up the pace, anxious to work with the men he knows will reach the front sooner or later, because the four riders up there surely can't survive this one. The pace is high, but the break is still over 2 minutes ahead. And there's the confirmation, 2 minutes 23 seconds for the four leaders rather, Yekimov, Dietz, Taffy and Van der Aarden. Eric Van der Aarden, for my money, would be the most likely to succeed, but if he got to near the end, I think Yekimov would try to go on his own. We're inside at 70 kilometers to go to the finish. And the little group again is settling down as strong men, but not all of them working. And Van Hooijdonk on the left of the picture looking to see who's going to help. Ballerini's also dropped back. And George Hincapie, he's up here as well. Rode his first Paris-Roubaix last year and loved every minute of it and finished well. And I've got a feeling that George Hincapie, even at this early stage of his career, is going to be a very, very good rider indeed. Schmil, Museeuw, Van Hooijdonk, these riders all up here now. The big names are coming forward. Baldato is here as well. Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle, the big names have made the split. Ballerini. This is a tremendous group that's trying to get things going. The rider sitting at the back here, Stefano Zanata, also riding well this year, has nipped onto the back of this chase group, which has formed over the last section of cobblestones. There's the four leaders picking their way very delicately around that right-hand corner. Well, you can see the surface for yourself. We're now onto zone number 9 between Marigny and Berset. They're choosing to ride down the centre of the cobble. Sometimes they're a little bit smoother there because the roads tend to be concave rather, and the edges drop away to the right and left. Well, Taffy, I think, must know what is going on behind. He's doing nothing at all in the breakaway, and don't forget, along with Dietz, he started this move. He doesn't like the presence of Yekimov, I think, and he doesn't like the presence of Van der Aarden. And I think that's the reason that they are going. Well, he's trying to hold that breakaway back just that little bit. Big Sean Yates has made the split, riding for his team, and indeed today he has a free hand to ride for himself. So Motorola have 3 riders up here, 4 riders up here in fact. So they've got Andreu, Hincapie, Bauer and Yates. But this group has been swelling quite a bit because it was a breakaway, and now there are more riders making the bridge, and Veenstra has also made the split for Motorola, so they've got 5 men in this front group. But again, the big pack has fought its way back to around about 40 men. Just sitting off the back by a length so he can see the way through the cobblestones, Andrea Taffy. Dietz is working too hard. Everybody says this man has a great future, but I know that his team director thinks he puts too much heart into every attack he makes. He did the same the other week in the Ghent-Wevelgem Classic. Now he's doing it the same today. He oversells himself, and you can't do that in a race like Paris-Roubaix. The other riders are going to let you do it because they're saving their strength, around about 30% if they're riding behind him. As ever, the crowd enjoying the spectacle at the end of sector number 9 at Bercy. So smooth roads once more. Something like 60 kilometers to go, I think, to the finish now. The peloton at 1 minute and 30 seconds. There's Yekimov. There again is Dietz doing all of the work. He has been a powerhouse, I've got to give him that. One of Germany's top amateur riders, now taken by the all-German Telekom team. But we haven't seen anything of team leader Olaf Ludwig. And once more, onto Sector 9, the main field is splitting up, and this time Yates is tagging onto the train. Ballerini setting the pace. Yates just sits there as if he's in an armchair sometimes and bashes out the rhythm on his pedals. Such a strong rider. He seems to get better and better the older he gets. And the holes once more forming in the group. Nelson riding very, very well, considering this man is supposed to be a pure sprinter. He's now in the thick of the action. In the centre of those 3 riders, and the little group reforming of the strong men once again. Van Hooijdonk down there. Those long, thin, powerful legs of Eddie Van Hooijdonk. Nelson follows him off the cobbles. Little Steve Bauer in between them. And once more, that group of 40 has been reduced to about 20. And there's Andre Schmill. Now beginning to find his feet once again in the Paris-Roubaix. Andre Schmill has come to the front. Yates is on the right of our picture here. And I must say that Yates is looking to have read the move perfectly well at the moment. This is Franco Ballerini. Schmill wants a little bit of help. The gap is 1:37, so they've knocked about 45 seconds off with their hard work. But Schmill is now alone, the Lotto rider. I don't think he has any teammates in this group. There's Van Hooijdonk going through. The one man we haven't seen much of, but there he is, Johan Museeuw in the white jersey. So he read my thoughts there. He's up here in this group. So the Mappe boys, it's all going well for them. Ballerini and Museeuw, and they've got Taffy trying to tag on to the leaders out in front. Well, Van Hooijdonk at the start of the season was quoted as saying that the racing is now so fast and so difficult, it's probably as hard as it's ever been. And I read that quote as a man who was then thinking like a little bit of a defeatist. But having said that, he's found his form this year, and he's right up there now in what has been a race which has often been kind to him over the years. So Van Hooijdonk is now in this leading group once again. There's Ballerini, always looking behind to check out what is going on. Van Hooijdonk got a second in Het Valk behind Ballerini. And then he finally got his win in Flèche-Brabançon, which is a Belgian classic race, semi-classic. So it does seem that the older they get, these riders, they do continue at the top of their form. Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle is a prime example, and talking to him, we haven't seen much of him lately. Well, it couldn't be a nicer day for a little potter through the lanes heading towards Roubaix, except that the riders here are averaging just on 25 miles an hour. This is Max Chiandri on the right, trying to get another group going. The crowd enjoying the spectacle, but these three riders here now are trying to reach the four front runners. Well, it looked to me as though it was Olaf Ludwig there with Ballerini and Chiandri. That was the group that make up of that little group trying to get clear. Very strong group indeed, all winners potentially. I'm not sure whether they can get away because they've left behind Museo, but while Ballerini's in on the act, Museo won't counter. This is the advantage of having a strong team for the classics. You can place your men like chess markers, and then you can put yourself in a defensive position and be carried back up by the other attackers. The remnants of the main field now down to a much more workmanlike group of round about 13 riders there. Well, they shattered that breakaway, but they're the three that's starting. Ballerini setting the pace. Ludwig and Maximilian Chiandri, who this year, by the way, has taken out a British racing licence because of his birthright, although he's always ridden for Italian, and indeed will remind you he is Italian. But the fact is he's never been selected for the World Championships, and that has always annoyed him, and he believes he can't break into the selection system. So to make sure he rides the World Championships this year in Colombia, he applied and was given a British racing licence. So no longer sure whether we should put him down as GB or IT these days. But the gap is 1 minute and 3 seconds for the leaders now. Well, I don't think the leaders are going to survive now, because the group behind, you can't control riders on the cobblestones. You simply go to the front and you set the fast pace and you keep it going, and I don't think those three leaders will survive it now. But we'll see. Johan Capio setting the pace there. Another man who's come right through, another great classic rider as well, who enjoys the early part of the season. Winner of Het Volk in the years gone by. This is the front again, and still Taffy looking across the fields there, because the course here twists and turns. They will know back in the chase group where the leaders are, because they will now be able to spot the helicopter hovering above the leaders in the road. That's how we bring you these pictures. And unfortunately, but the countryside here is so flat, they will know exactly where the leaders are, although they may not be able to see them at the moment. Chase group of 4 riders. Bortolami looks as though he's up in this group now, along with Ballerini. So the Mappe boys have got 2 riders up here, and a general regrouping of the best riders at the front of that group as well. Just the motorcycles allowed in with the spare equipment, because it's very difficult to work out at the moment just where these splits are forming, and certainly you can't get service cars in. But we're going straight up to the leaders, and they're now in sight of the chasers, and still Taffy is sitting at the back. And it looks to me as though Dietz is still doing the most of the work at the front. Raw aggression, and perhaps a little bit of enthusiasm as well. Let's pull back and have a look who the chasers are. It's still a very big group down there. The rider looking over his shoulder is Johan Capio, sitting at the back. Now a chance to look down here as we see them go through. Ludwig is up here, Ballerini, Sean Yates, that's Capio, and this is Baldato here, Fabio Baldato, and sitting at the back, Motorola have the second man up here. The 2 men who get motivated by Paris-Roubaix are both in this chase group, which I think will shortly become the lead group, and that is Steve Bauer and Sean Yates. Bauer sitting at the back. He's going to feel pretty good about the way things are going right now. A little check over his shoulder to see if that main field is going to get back. But each time you crack on the cobbles, well, it's another effort to join, and you can't do it forever. But in this group, we've certainly got Ludwig, Ballerini, Chandri, Yates, Bortolami, Baldato, Museu, Bauer. Nelson is here as well. So it's a real select group, is this now? Still a little bit riders not wanting to work, a lack of cohesion perhaps, and that's going to leave that breakaway dangling out front. Museo just ticks through here. He's not really putting home the attack. Taffy they don't see as a winner for them, but they do see as an annoyance that breakaway. Baldato wants a drink, so he's going back for that. And George Hincapie has rejoined this group because he's here too. And there is Duclos Lazal, number 61. He's back. Edwin van Hooijdonk is here. Number 14 is Nicola Loda. It's a good move by the MG rider to come into this breakaway. So again, we've seen riders claw their way back from the remnants of the peloton. Some 60 riders have stayed in general contention since we left the Forest of Arenberg. But they're always, as the riders will say, on the rivet. They're not saving anything here because the pressure remains fully on. And Dietz is the man who sets the pace all of the time. Yekimov follows with Van der Arden and Andrea Taffy. Another attack going off the front of the main field. Bauer trying to get a wheel, looks over some help. There's Duclos Lazal passing through. Duclos is going to be very pleased with this at 40.5 years of age. I remember when Joop Zoetemelk had to defend his world title, and he was 40 years of age, the world body had to alter their race rules because there was a rule that you couldn't ride the world championships once you turned 40 years of age. And there they had Joop Zoetemelk, who won the title at 39, would not have been allowed to have a go at defending it, so the rules were changed. Now there seems to be a number of cyclists cracking the 40 years of age barrier. Another one is Danny Clark, the Australian, still winning the 6-day circuits, and he's 43. And if we bring it down to the American scene, well, there's Kent Bostic, who is 41 and a Pan-American medalist this year. Gold medalist indeed. Well, whenever our camera comes back to the leaders, we only see Dietz do the work. I can't believe that the riders are letting him do all of the work, but he seems content and settled to waste his energy like that. You really can't do that and hope to win Paris-Roubaix. The gap has come down consistently. This looks like Johan Capio is having a go. Well, Johan Capio, a pro back in 1986. The gap is down to a minute. Started out in his first season with a third in the classic race between Paris and Brussels. But he finished third in Paris-Roubaix in 1992. He made it sixth in 94. So he loves this race, and he started a move again now. He's decided the time is right to try and reach those four leaders on his own. And it looks as though nobody's going to chase him right now either. So this is Seclin. And there is the lone figure of Johan Capio, former champion of Belgium, the magic number 51. That number that keeps on winning the Tour de France. And this year, by the way, also won the Tour of South Africa on the back of Michael Anderson of Sweden. Nice little bit of an echelon, attempt to form an echelon on the bottom there of the peloton, but it hasn't worked. And here we go, back to the front. And guess who's in the lead? So we have a little sandwich here of Taffy sitting at the back doing nothing, hoping one day you'll see the arrival of his Mapai team. Museu, Ballerini, Bortolami perhaps. Bortolami won the World Cup, of course, last year. This is a World Cup race, very much so. This is probably the finest classic for any rider to win. The other one that they all like to win is the Tour of Flanders. And that was Museo's last week. Great victory for him. This is Capio. Very cramped style, rides very like Sean Kelly. This is the sort of style that they always devise in Belgium. You can always tell a Belgian cyclist by his style. Short reach, very cramped, saddle low because of the cobblestones to absorb the power maybe of the cobbles into those legs. And that looks like the style of Bortolami to me, who's trying to get across to the leaders. Gianluca Bortolami, the World Cup holder, has gone, so the Mappe boys are going to start blocking now. They put Bortolami up there. And well, having said that, just to prove me wrong, that's Ballerini who's flown out of that group. Franco Ballerini's trying to reach his teammate Bortolami. Well, he'll only go if nobody follows. He won't surely know. He's checking to see who's coming. The answer is nobody, I think. Because Franco Ballerini wouldn't take a rider of any note across to his teammate, surely. But Bortolami is up there and Ballerini is going for him, and Johan Capio is the other man. Well, any thought now that there was some serious damage to the shoulder of Ballerini, I think has gone out of the window, because that rider's on form. And that will certainly be good news. And it looks to me as though, in fact, Bortolami's now spotted the figure of Ballerini coming. They're good friends on and off the bike, although they're also teammates, of course. And I think if Bortolami's realised it, he's going to wait now, and he's just going to let Capio keep the pace tapping over until Ballerini gets up to him. This is a great move by Mappé, and now we know fully why Taffy was told to sit at the back of that breakaway, a breakaway he indeed created himself, and wait for the arrival of one of the big heads of the team. And now Ballerini coming up like a rocket here. And Bortolami is quite prepared to ease back too and bring him on too. Capio's not going to be interested in what's going on behind him. He's going to make it hard as possible. This is back up front. And in fact, it looks to me as though there's only 3 riders here, unless Taffy has gone off our picture to the right. Maybe the message has reached him. Let's have a little look. No, he's still there, sitting at the back. Well, I'm sure that sooner or later the teammate or the team manager will come up and tell him what's going on. But now we have a serious move here as we get towards the end. We're round about 40 kilometres from the finish. And we've got 2 very strong riders and Capio coming up. And Capio well capable. It would probably go down as his finest victory, but he's well capable of victory in Paris-Roubaix. Ballerini has joined them and sitting there at the back for a breather. But he won't want to make it too long, because indeed he's left some good riders behind him, including Duclos Lazal and André Schmil. And indeed his teammate Johan Museo, who will not be chasing now. Museo's position has been compromised in Paris-Roubaix now, because he's the leader of the World Cup, but he can't advance that position without damaging the 3 riders from his own team who are out front. So this is the most interesting move now. And there's the result of the attack by Capio. They've now got the leaders down to 40 seconds. Surely they're going to pick them up. Sector 7 of the cobblestones. We're counting down to Sector 1, remember. We've got 4 leaders and 3 chasers. Now that is the corner which has remained defiantly wet today despite a week of warm sunshine, so you can imagine what it would have been like had we been continuing wet weather here in Europe. That's the corner where invariably 1 or 2 usually fall down. Today though, A-OK, as we now watch Capio finding himself in a Mappé sandwich with Bortolami and Ballerini looking down, right down this long, horrible straight road, because the riders can see the attackers. There they are. And Museo sitting in 2nd place, making Steve Bauer do the work. Ludwig is just behind him. And it's good to see that even when you're a born winner and a team leader like Museo, and indeed the leader of the World Cup, you are content to block and use all of the tactics to defy the others when you have your team on the attack. The team is more important than the individual, it seems, in the Mappé GB squad. André Schmil, last year's great winner. He went a long way out. Today he's a captive of the chase group, and just in front of him, centre screen for us, is Gilbert Duclos Lazal. You can have nothing but total admiration for him, and it looks as though Capio has gone here. Capio's been dropped. Capio's been left here in the fields. Capio's finding that the team time trial by the 2 Mappé boys has put him in a lot of trouble. Now that is a little bit of a surprise. Very nasty corner, this one. Even our camera motorbike there took it a little bit gently. Oh, and in fact, Capio nearly went. Capio nearly went into the crowd there. It's going to take a while to get that big gear rolling again. So Johan Capio has lost ground. Regrettably, our cameras weren't with the riders when the attack came. So we don't know who created that move, but both Mappé boys have certainly slipped a 1-2 onto Capio. This is the trouble he got himself into on this bend. You see, he lost his line on the cobblestones, and then he went right into the soft side of the road. He did well to come out of that. But being a Belgian, they are brilliant bike handlers. And he's back and riding again, but he's a little bit down the way now. We've got 4 leaders, 2 chasers, then Capio, and then back to the Museu group. Bortolami is the rider setting the pace, and they've halved the last deficit. They're now 20 seconds off the lead. Two Mappe boys going forward here. This has been such a good race for Mappe, and a real chance too for Ballerini here now, a rider who has had this love-hate relationship with Paris-Roubaix for years. End of sector 7. Taffy still content to sit at the back. Maybe blissfully unaware at the moment about the two teammates who are chasing, yet he will be expecting something to happen from his team. They've got a plan. And look at the speed of these two. They're out of sector 7 now, so that's never 20 seconds. I would say it's more like 10 or 12 seconds the gap now. These two riders are going across to the leaders. This will be a nasty shock to Van der Orden and Yekimov and Dietz. And I would think that Taffy will be all smiles when he sees two of his teammates arrive. The very two he would love to see, the World Cup holder, Bortolami, who had a magical season last year with 2 World Cup victories. And then a stage win also in the Tour de France, which almost got in the yellow jersey, but it didn't quite. That honour went over to Sean Yates at the end of that stage. And now an attack from the front, and you know, I think Taffy's gone. I think Taffy's gone. Can you believe this? Taffy has gone by himself. So Andrea Taffy, he may or may not know his two teammates are almost reaching out to touch the back of the lead group, and Taffy has gone himself. Now this is going to throw a little bit of confusion among the Mappe team for the moment at least, but this is Andrea Taffy. He's having a tremendous Paris-Roubaix, because before we got vision on our cameras we could see this rider. The pace he set at the front till he finally cracked the bunch went on for kilometres, and he never looked for any help until he finally got away. And then he formed that lead group of 4. Now he's sat at the back under orders, and now he's decided to go for gold right by himself. Well, he's about 40 kilometres, that's 25 miles from the finish. An awful long way to hold off everybody who are flat out in Paris-Roubaix, but it's been done before. And the 3 riders are about to be joined. This is the race now for first place for sure. Here come the Mappe boys. They're going to have a shock. They're going to find that Taffy's not there. And there's only one place he could have gone, and that's forward. But in fact, it looks to me as though Taffy is there now, because there are 4 riders back in our screen, so the reaction has come. We have 4 men. Taffy has been caught. And we now have Bortolami, who's done most of the work in this chase. Ballerini's come up and sat on him. And I'm wondering if these two have had words, and Bortolami has been told to set the pace and get Ballerini into the lead, and he's done that now. Ballerini, who once thought he'd won Paris-Roubaix until they developed the photograph and then found he'd finished second. You can imagine how he felt. And that was back in 1993. We're looking at a man here who has finished 21 times in the top 10 positions of a world-noted classic, but he's very rarely the winner. Now he's got himself up into the lead again in a Paris-Roubaix, a race in which he has always ridden so well. A race, by the way, in which he said back in 1993 he'd never come back to, but he comes back every year. They all do, cyclists. There's Dietz. Well, he must be feeling tired. He's gone to the back behind Yekimov. There's Taffy, so he's back in the fold too. Van der Orden. But Taffy is playing now the role of a teammate. He's got the men he wants up here. Oh, well, he's playing second place, because this again is Bortolami who's gone to the front, turning a very big gear quickly. But there's now quality in this break. A lot of substances arrive now, and it's going to make it very difficult indeed for a reforming chase group to get back into contention. And all of the names, and I can't think of any offhand, who are missing from this chase group are here. Museo's in there, Baldato, Sean Yates, Chandry, Van Hooijdonk, André Schmil, of course, the rider who won last year. They're in this group. Duclos Lazal, we can see in the white jersey. And the gap is down 25 seconds too, so although they've reached the leaders, it's nothing significant. This is going to be a great finish to Paris-Roubaix. Surprisingly, not a lot of dust. We expected a lot of dust out there today, which is worse, I think, than the mud for the riders, because the eyes start to sting and then you start to see blurred vision. And frankly, it is terrible. Zone number 6 is just 1.4 kilometers long. Finishes at Thibaut. And there's still riders can reach that group. What a ride Museo must be doing, because he's slowing down all of the reaction here. Nelson is there. There's Museo, top of our picture, riding on the wheel, always it seems, of Bauer. And there's an idea of the gap, and also the public who turn out every year to watch Paris-Roubaix. And the Roubaix Velodrome, where the race will arrive, where it first finished in 1896, this event is packed. They seem to manage to squeeze more people in every year. Well, the two men who created this race, Vienne and Perez, I'm sure they didn't realize quite what they started, the race to Roubaix, back in 1896, but they've certainly continued the trend, because the riders have kept this notoriously the greatest classic of them all. Back with the leaders, Yakimov now on the wheel of Dietz. I don't think Dietz is feeling quite so good now. Bortolami has slipped through to the back as well. This is a real good breakaway of 6 riders, but the main chase is not very far behind. Incapi is also back in that group, don't forget. Second time he's ridden this. I can remember his words like it was yesterday when he walked out of the stadium last year. He just said, "It was awesome, man." And now he's back. He loves it. The sun now on the backs of the riders. They've been riding for over 5 hours. Team Motorola searching still for that big classic win, setting the pace once more. Latest time check, it's gone out since the two leaders caught up. It's 48 seconds now, and that's largely due to the blocking tactics, I think, of Museu, who's going through second and third man in the line and then not setting the pace and just waiting for somebody else to pick it up, and it's disrupting the rhythm of that chase group. It's also, there are too many riders there, too many teams involved, and it's very difficult to organize the pursuit properly. There's Museu again, out of the saddle, easing out of the saddle, taking second wheel and spoiling everybody's fun. Can't blame him for that. Van Hooijdonk. Nelson gritting his teeth and going through. Sean Yates going through. Duclos Lazal here, second. Baldato just in front of him. Duclos looks good, but he's just hoping, I think, a little bit that this group comes up. There's the dropped. Capio has come back into this group. He still looks quite good. But that's Capio. This is back with the leaders. In fact, Franco Ballerini has gone on his own. He's made his move here on the section of cobbled zone number 6 between Templeuve and Pont Thibault. Now, this is a good move, but he's leaving himself a fair way to run into the finish, but he knows 2 of those riders back in that chase group are not going to counter this move. That's the benefit of the strength of this team. He's made his move on the cobbled, and he has got the gap. As we pull back, you can see the chasers are there, but the gap is very definitely on. And this is Templeuve now. He's around about 32 kilometers from the finish, and that's just 20 miles to go. And Ballerini has put his gloves on the table here. He knows if it fails, Bortolami is still there. Taffy is still there, but we don't know how strong Taffy can be now. Franco Ballerini. He's riding better than ever before. He seems to have found all of his old confidence. He came up with his victory in Het Volk in Belgium this year. Turn professional. Duclos Lazal has got a problem. Lazal has punctured. And in fact, he wants the television camera out of the way. He is fuming. The camera's stopped to watch. Duclos Lazal, and I'll leave you to speak French because I'm not going to tell you what he's saying, but it's not very complimentary. Because, in fact, Duclos Lazal, our cameraman, should not have stopped there. Because what he did was block all of these cars to get through. The gap is going, and the grand old man of Paris-Roubaix may not rejoin now. And that look said it all at the television cameraman. Everybody gets a little bit excited when a flat tire happens, especially when it's a French cameraman with a French cyclist. But Duclos Lazal, I think, will have a lot to say when he gets to the finish now, because he's got to rejoin that chase group. That's a great shame. That's a great... In fact, he's still looking round at us here. So Duclos Lazal has a long, empty road ahead to catch up with that chase group. And we'll go back to the man who's setting the pace, Franco Ballerini. A quick drink and back into the thick of the action. And this is Franco Ballerini, a rider who turned professional back in 1986 when he didn't win a race. In fact, from memory, his best position was 25th in the Tour of Lombardy. There was no indication there he was going to be a superb classic racer. But I think he's fallen in love in many ways, in a strange way, with this race, because he's always ridden it well. 19th back in 1990, 5th in 1991. He has, of course, been second and third too. Now Ballerini's laid his cards on the table. He's going to have to now hang on in there, because there's a general regrouping here. We cross the main autoroute, which will take the people through to Belgium from Paris or up to Lille on the French-Belgian frontier. This race just zigzags through the autoroute route, but a little bit of counterattack trying to come away. And again, Museo sitting on the wheels, not offering anything whatsoever. Nelson has made contact, Van Hooijdonk has made contact. But Ballerini is going, and going well, still showing the scars on his elbow there of the fall the other week, or the other day rather, in Ghent-Wevelgem. When everybody thought that was the end for Ballerini for Paris-Roubaix, well, we've all been proven wrong, because now he's heading towards the finish in Roubaix, and you've just got that feeling he's going to make it. The gap is not yet significant. It's still round about 40 seconds. Duclos Lasalle has punctured. The 5 chasers are falling back into this lead group. Andre Schmil looking for some more help, and again Museo goes through second wheel. There's Schmil saying come on and get the line going and get round Johan Museo. You see Schmil's opened a gap because he's dropped back waiting for help. There's no cohesion there whatsoever. Duclos Lasalle also still struggling. He has not rejoined that chase group yet. That looked to me as though it's Capio's team car coming up for a chat. But here you've got Ballerini on section 5 of the pavé, just 5 sectors to go. And his lead is round about 45 to 50 seconds. So he's pushing it up. Well, these 5 riders here now are the remnants of that chase group, but they're falling back. There's 51 second confirmed. Ballerini goes into the dust, and the 5 riders here behind are no longer looking their fluid cells now. And I don't think the Dietz can have very much left at all. And the peloton are closing in on them all of the time. End of sector 5. The cobblestones are being ticked off now, and Ballerini is still going very, very strongly indeed. These are the worst sections of pavé now, but here's the good news. Here is Fernandez, who's going to tell him that he has a gap of almost 1 minute. The Bortolami is in there blocking for him, and in the main chase, Museo is doing a tremendous job. The bridesmaid, but very rarely top dog. 1993 Ballerini, 7th Milan-San Remo, 6th the Tour of Flanders, 2nd Paris-Roubaix. He couldn't quite get the wins. It goes even worse or better. 1991 he was 8th in the Tour of Flanders, 5th in Roubaix, 3rd in the Tour of Lombardy, won a stage of the Giro and finished 12th in the World Championships. Tremendous record, but if you're a winner, you trade them all in for just 1 big win each year. And there's Andre Schmil, and again our man in white sitting on him, Ludwig 3rd. And into the last sector of cobbles, well, the last sectors. This is sector number 4. Vogel, 242.5 kilometers done of the 266. Seeking the bit of dust on the left of the road and praying now that they don't get any of those compression punctures. You might note here that unusually for the riders in Paris-Roubaix, there is no form of suspension on Ballerini's bicycle, because in fact the maker of the machine didn't want to spoil the look of the bicycle. Minute 45, Ballerini is riding to victory, and the main field again has regrouped. A lot of riders in that chase group. I'm not sure in fact if Duclos Lasalle has rejoined, but he can't be far off getting back on. You see there is no cohesion there. It's left to Motorola again to start pushing the pace up. Now, as long as they keep this up, Ballerini is going to win this race. He's going to win it by a couple of minutes. The Mappe boys have ridden a brilliant tactical race. Taffy early on, then Bortolami, Ballerini, and of course Museo at the back. A much different Paris-Roubaix, run off much more like a normal classic, despite the cobblestones, because the cobbles themselves haven't delivered the usual knockout punches yet. This is Van Hooijdonk having a go now. So Edwig Van Hooijdonk really seeing who's going to come with him. Well, Museo is straight on him and blocking him straight away. Meanwhile, out of sector 4 goes Ballerini. Van Hooijdonk is driving onto the cobblestones. Yates has got back up as well. But you see, Museo won't come through. He just locks off. The pace immediately drops. And here comes Juan Fernandez and Patrick Lefevre again with the good news. But, you know, Fernandez twice finished third in a World Championship riding for Spain, so he's got all of the experience required now. He'll know exactly what Ballerini will want to hear. Well, the 5 are still hanging on by the seat of their pants. They're still out front. And again, Yekimov sitting in the middle, the Mappe boy sitting at the back, Van der Arden, and the man doing the pacing once more is Dietz. But they're not going to hang out here much longer. The main field are chasing them down. They're on the same stretch of cobblestones now. I have to say that Yekimov in his first Paris-Roubaix is riding superbly. And the man doing the damage in the chase is Sean Yates of Team Motorola. And the man trying to slow everything down in second place is Johan Museu. Well, Museo, I wonder how he feels inside. He must feel a little bit frustrated by the attack of his team. But on the other hand, it is the victory that counts for the team. But he's the leader in the World Cup, and he's seeing points sail out of the window at the moment. Although if they pick up that chase group of 5, the second place race is on, and second place points today would do him just nicely and would give Mappe the old 1-2 as well. End of segment second number 4. And again, that group is big. These are the other riders still out in front. They're about 40 seconds ahead of the main peloton. Van der Arden, Yekimov. With still the rough sections to come. They're in the region of 28 kilometers to go here. Dietz has had a lot of showing of strength here. If he can just package up that strength and put it into the right area of the race, you know he's going to win a big race. Now this is Ballerini. He's heading to the cobbles on sector 3. The crowd gets bigger as the race gets nearer to Roubaix and the finish. 248 kilometers covered now, just 1.8 meters, or 1.8 kilometers rather, on this section. There's Taffy. Bortolami now knows that the end is near. The main chase is coming back, and it looks as though he might have a little bit of pins and needles there, because you grip the handlebars so hard on these sections of cobblestones. The riders quite often get blisters and also this attack of pins and needles. Ballerini is looking so good now on this section of cobblestones, and I just wonder if in his mind he is remembering what happened in Paris-Roubaix in 1993. Well, we can take a look.
Ballerini is waiting for Lazal to move. He's almost tempting him through. He's waiting to see the move come. This Italian must have some confidence. He's a cool operator, that's for sure. Down the back straight. Ballerini has looked, he's looked back, and Lazal has gone, Duclos has gone, and he's got the lead. Ballerini still takes his slipstream. He's going to have to come in the tailwind in the home straight. Ballerini will have to move in the last 50 metres now as Duclos Lazal goes for goal for the second year. Off the final banking, now Ballerini is coming on the left of our picture. Ballerini, but Duclos Lazal is holding him. Ballerini thinks he's got it, his arm is in the air. So it's gone to the photograph for Franco Ballerini. Looking across now, he's no longer quite so certain that he has won. Yes, he is. He thinks he's won it. Let's look at the picture. Well, Franco Ballerini has lost it. Gilbert Duclos Lazal, who thought he'd lost it, and Ballerini doesn't know, it's not announced. He thinks he's won Paris-Roubaix. This is unbelievable. But the winner of Paris-Roubaix is Gilbert Duclos Lazal. There's no doubt about that now.
Well, after that, he in fact said he would never come back, beaten by the photo there. And in 1994, he was back. He had 5 punctures and 3 crashes and still finished third. And now he's out in front on his own, 1:25 ahead of the pursuers. And it's even slightly more than that over the main field, which contains Johan Museeuw, who could clean up if they manage to pick up Ballerini before the finish. Andre Schmil is now being left to do the pacemaking at the front. Baldato very evident too in this chase back. Nelson stands out there in his Belgian national champions jersey. This is the breakaway, and it's gone. Another attack has gone off the front of this breakaway. I think Taffy has gone this time. This is the second time that the attack has gone from the front, but the pursuers are in all sorts of trouble now. This has been a Mapai race from start to finish so far. And now we're seeing another attack again by Mappe. These are the legs of Ballerini. And he's off one more big section of cobblestones. Duclos Lazal is coming back into the picture here, the rider who was out of action with a flat tyre. And that's Steve Bauer. He's coming up behind too. Bauer in a little bit of trouble now in the closing stages. Seems to be in the dirt on the right of the road there. In fact, dropped by the group, but he might well get back up with the help of Duclos Lazal. And total panic here now as riders are scrabbling over the worst stretches of the cobblestones. You can see now the dirt being stirred up by the motorbikes just out ahead of the riders. Not a welcome sight for these riders at all. Long, long, empty stretches of road. There's the group that Duclos Lazal is finally coming back to. He'll bring Bauer back with him now. And just watch the bottom of our picture there. If the camera stays long enough, we might see Bauer. And here they are. They're swinging off that same stretch of cobblestones now. And Ballerini is continuing to forge a lone trail now towards Roubaix. The chasing breakaway has more or less disintegrated, and that third group on the road is beginning to reach them. Just 2 sectors of pavé left. And there is the second rider on the road now, and that's Taffy. So Mappe have both riders, first and second, with a chance of making it a 1-2-3 here. This would be unthinkable. First, second and third for the team, because Museeuw surely will take the sprint from the group. He's done virtually nothing except block all the time. And if you wanted to give a most aggressive rider's prize for today's racing, I think you must give it to Andrea Taffy. He has ridden so hard at the front and all the time really to lay the foundations for Ballerini as it's turning out. Here's Bordelami. This is the remnants of the breakaway. And Vyacheslav Yekimov always rides in that crouch pursuiter style, which made him world famous when he rode in the red jersey of the Soviet Union, and he broke the world records on the track. And Ballerini still tapping out the rhythm, suffering a little bit now, I think, and well he should. 1:25, he's still increasing his lead over the rest of the field. He's going to be into the last 10 kilometers, Franco Ballerini. This breakaway has come back together again, more or less. Bortolami, Taffy, Yekimov again. They've all sort of regrouped here. This massive crowd watching the riders come out of the hell and get back onto good roads. But still the main field is only just behind them, and this is why they're trying to keep this breakaway together. But Yekimov has no option here but to do most of the work himself, I think. Bortolami knows his team captain is safe and now should start thinking of second place. But they won't want to take Yekimov too near the finish, because Yekimov will certainly find the strength to go alone. He's controlled the attack by Taffy. Now can he control that one, because Taffy was going again there. And Baldato sets the place ahead of Nelson. Edwig van Hooijdonk. Another rider gone through on the inside of our picture. Now there's the attack by Taffy, once again crossing over the auto route here. Just one sector of cobbles to come. Taffy has been controlled by Yekimov. Yekimov a little bit nervous now as to wondering if Bortolami will be the next rider to attack, because they're trying to get rid of Yekimov. And the Mappe boys would then be free to ride to the first, second, third, and unthinkably they could get 4 places overall here because of Museo back in the pack. But this messing about by the chase group, I think, will be their downfall now. Ballerini has played his cards well. He's gone clear. The other 4 are left now with a strange combination. Dietz is the rider who has disappeared from that group and paid the price. As far as we know, he's fallen back into the Museo group. And there we have them all in the sights now, because the main field around the corner down there as well. Still Museo watching the moves but not playing any hand. Ludwig is there, and I think I saw Dietz in that group as well. And Taffy's gone again here. This is the 3rd time he's attacked in about 2 kilometers. Minute 27, and now we've got Andrea Taffy going once more on his own. Their confidence has just hit the heights today. They've been doing exactly what they've wished in this race all day, the Mappe boys. They've ridden a superb race. 10 kilometers it is to go. Franco Ballerini. 6 miles from the finish. A long way when you're holding off some of the best riders in the world who are in full flight. I haven't seen Ballerini afford himself one glance over his shoulders yet. He just knows now that if he gets caught, he'll get washed away. He's giving everything here. And what a change from a year ago when he had all of those problems with flat tyres and crashes. None of that this year yet. Well, we're looking at a very clean Ballerini. The indications that this race this year has been over just the dust roads of northern France and no mud at all. Even so, the warm shower will be welcome today, especially for Ballerini, who now I think can afford himself a little dream of finally getting his hands on that big cobblestone trophy. Tenth in the Tour of Flanders, winner of Het Valk in Belgium. And it looks to me as though these 3 know the end is near. They've gone through the 10-kilometer point as well, still that minute-and-a-half difference. And I think they're surrendering here to the group coming up, because I think this is it. They know it's right behind them, otherwise they would have been going. They've sat up. Let's have a look. And there they are, the chase group. It looks as though it might be a small group that's coming clear. Schmill is there, Yates is there, number 101, well that is Frédéric Moncassin, and Museo along for the ride as well, so Museo has come up now. And that's a good ride also by the Team Novell rider Moncassin, who is a good finisher, but it's not going to be the end because this group is also joining on. So last year's winner, André Schmill. Now, there's only one rider out on the road apart from this group. Baldato's here, number 11. Placed last year. Ballerini, the only rider to survive now. Now, what a good move it was, as it turns out, to have left that breakaway, which did not succeed. Well, Museo and the team know that Ballerini's gone. I wonder how many of these riders do. There's Eric van der Arden riding on the shoulder of the champion of Belgium, Nelson, a jersey worn by van der Arden when he won this race. He was the champion of Belgium back in 1987. Number 17 is Chandry, another sprinter who will try to sharpen his legs for second place if it comes down to it. And I'm not sure, but it could be that in fact Baldato is asking who is in the lead or how far ahead is he. Well, the answer is 1 minute and 30 seconds, 90 seconds separating Ballerini from the group. And I think now that Baldato is in no doubt that Ballerini is in front by 90 seconds and about 6 kilometers to go to the finish. Nelson putting in his share of the work. Chandri right behind him. Baldato along for the ride now, it seems, because also the same must be said of Erik van der Aarden and Edwig van Hooijdonk. Baldato's had a great start to the season. Won a stage of the Tour of the Mediterranean, a stage of the Tour of Valencia, a stage of Paris-Nice, and a stage in the 3 days of De Panne. That's a Belgian race, so he's got the form, 4 wins under his belt. But I think he's been outwitted now. His runner-up spot in the Tour of Flanders indicated him to be a favourite for this race, but he hasn't really been in a position to win it. Yates chooses to ride and flatten the cobblestones in the centre, while the others ride left and right. Nothing seems to hurt that man. A lone figure of Franco Ballerini, the end of the cobblestones, and now it's just a nice ride down into Roubaix, the arrival in the stadium, and this time they won't need the photo finish. But if he ever gets to see this video, he'll know just what a great big debt of thanks he will owe Johan Museeuw. Museeuw has sacrificed everything today to block for his team leader on the day, Ballerini. And Nelson here seems to be riding better and better as we get down towards the finish. Drawn by the fact, no doubt, that just over the border he lives. He's ridden a very good race, but not good enough to outwit Italy, who are now set to win yet another classic event. The great renaissance all started when Gianni Bugno won Milan-San Remo in record time a couple of years ago, and the Italians have never looked back since. Nelson doing a long turn, happy to see the cobblestones, I suppose, but nobody willing to work with him. It is still too unruly, this big bunch. Nobody really willing to give their all because they're carrying other likely winners with them. And a little bit of a move coming up on the left. Nelson spotted it and moved across. Well, it's over 90 seconds now, in fact, since we saw Ballerini pass by the balloon. So he's still going away. Big Wilfred out to get his revenge, no doubt, in the upcoming Tour de France. Yates goes through. And number 32 here, Rolf Aldag. First time I spotted him in the breakaway, just ahead of André Schmil. Aldag, a good sprinter. André Schmil, by this stage last year, was flying to victory, so he knows exactly how Ballerini feels. And it must be a great feeling too, when you've been so close. Second in 1993, the photo finish denying him that. Third in 1994, and now he looks certain to become first in 1995. Suffering he may be, but the feeling will be a good one. He'd come round there very wide. He didn't exactly take a racing line into that corner. Well, 10 seasons as a professional cyclist, and he hasn't won a race, in fact, since 1991. Until this year. He's had his down moments, but he's been so close as well. But the teams have remained faithful with him, and they knew he was going well. They must have had a doubt at the start with his injuries, but he's certainly by midway threw that rumour out of the window. He's just keeping the pressure on nicely now. He knows he's got a 90-95 second buffer, and that's good enough. That'll be good enough, in fact, to give him a lap of the track before the chasers make their entry right behind him. He's going to enjoy the next few minutes, I think. but there's always that nagging feeling, I suspect, in Paris-Roubaix. You just don't know if those tyres are going to make it as well. They've taken a battering today on the cobblestones. You don't know if there's grit lurking in there. But it's over 2 minutes now. That's a beautiful margin. 2 minutes 8 seconds for Ballerini, and still no real chase here. I think that they've actually thrown the towel in. They're racing now for second place. Number 32 is Aldag, and Johan Museo looking very cool and waiting for the sprint. Max Chandri in the blue in the centre, he's leading. Nelson, it should be a great sprint anyway, because these riders are all sprinters. And there's another one there too, right in the middle, from Team Novell, Frédéric Moncassin, won Kern-Brussels-Kern this year. He's another fine finisher. And this is probably the reason why the riders are now boxing their own game here, because they just don't know who is going to take second place. I think they've now accepted that Ballerini has won this race, and he won it at about 40 kilometres out today. He broke clear of that lead group at 32 kilometres to go, 20 miles, and he hasn't looked back since, quite literally. This could be the last drink before we head into town. Yeah, there goes the bottle. So he'll be making the turn towards the finishing road and then into the stadium. 1 3/4 laps of the velodrome. There's a marvellous crowd there. They're treated to watching the whole of the race on a huge television screen, so they know the quality of the ride of this man today. A man who is not a prolific winner, but I suppose, in fairness, you could say he is a prolific loser of the classics. His biggest season came in 1990 when he won 5 races. And of the big races he lost, the Amstel Gold Race 5th, the Ghent-Wevelgem 3rd, the Tour of Flanders 10th, Paris-Roubaix 19th. He finished 4th in the World Cup though, because of consistency. His victories included the Paris-Brussels and the Grand Prix of the Americas up in Canada. Still, Shamil now being left to make all of the pace and being marked heavily by Bortolami. He looked over his shoulder for a little help and then realised who it was, and he knew then he wouldn't get any. Bortolami equally has played a great role today. He dragged Ballerini across to the leaders, and then he set the pace, and then Ballerini went on, and now he's playing his role again as a teammate. Well, we've seen a marvellous team in action today. A team that has, every card it's played has worked. But Schmil really is riding a champion's race in defence of his title, and he's still in with a shout for second place, of course, and you can't complain at that the year after you've won Paris-Roubaix. And this rider, Ballerini, is now heading down to the right turn into the stadium. There's no doubt now he is going to hear an enormous cheer out there on the velodrome. The French and Belgian crowd here just love a rider who goes for it and takes it, and you can't deny Ballerini his greatest moment now. They'll remember the day that Duclos-Lassalle got the victory when Ballerini threw his arms up in 1993. He thought he'd done enough. The photograph said otherwise, but now wait for the cheers, because Ballerini is going to race onto the track. It never fails to give you chicken skin, because the crowd here just love to see a winner of Paris-Roubaix come in alone. That's the way they always feel this race should be won. And Franco Ballerini shakes his head in disbelief. Now he sees the stadium and he's alone and he's going to win. The crowd love it. Onto the track itself now. Now the accelerations. He starts to go into the home straight. He'll have 1 lap to go here. Franco Ballerini is going to win this race as he goes round, and we can now join Paul Show in enjoying it.
Well, there you have it, Phil. Franco Ballerini has got 1 lap to go in this year's Paris-Roubaix. He's been so close over the last few years to taking victory in this race. He was so close with Duclos-Lassalle a couple of years ago. It was a photo finish, and you can hear the crowd here. They're on their feet. They're saluting the man who should have won this race on so many occasions. What a fine performance by Franco Ballerini over the last 40 kilometres. Phil, take him over to the line.
With the greatest of pleasure, because Franco Ballerini, so often the runner-up, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, but never the winner. And today he's going to win, and he's going to enjoy this all of the way to the line.
He just waves to the crowd. He may be Italian, but the people here today simply love him. They've got the memories of his defeat when a Frenchman won, but today it is a race for Italy and a race for Ballerini. And now we also have a race here for second place because they're all together again. And can Johan Museeuw make it a 1-2 for Mappe? They have been a sensational team in the race today. They have not done anything wrong at all. And now it's up to Museeuw, who is a sprinter, to finish this off and make it a 1-2 for Mappe. And in fact, we've got Bortolami, the faithful teammate to the end, leading out Museeuw into the stadium. It's a long way to go for Bortolami, who must be tired. But Museeuw second wheel there now. Yekimov is there too. So too is Andre Schmiel. They've got a slight lead over the rest of the group, which has left the other sprinters out of it. Now Bortolami going as quick as he can. He'll stay as long as he can on the front, but his legs must be burning by now. And Museeuw will wait as long as possible because Schmiel can finish well. I'm not too sure whether Yekimov can after that long breakaway. 1 lap to go. The other sprinters have been outwitted there. Outwitted they have been because they cannot get on now in what is just 1 lap of the track to go. Now Bortolami, he is looking so tired he can't go any quicker. Museeuw's going to have to go, and he's going to have to go early. He looks across, he sees Yekimov, he sees Schmiel. Schmiel is taking him on shoulder to shoulder. Andre Schmiel, the man who won this last year, is now taking on Johan Museeuw. Museeuw is having to lead from a long way out, and he comes round into the home straight now. Museeuw sees the finish. He's got the advantage of the inside. Yekimov is coming on the left. Schmiel is in the centre. It's going to be tight. It's going to be very tight indeed. Let's look at it again, because I really can't split here these two riders. On the right, we've got Museeuw. In the centre, we've got Schmiel. I just believe Yekimov hasn't got there, but I'm not too sure whether Museeuw has either. And as they come up to the line, it looks to me as though Schmiel has taken second place, and that will put Museeuw third. Let's have another look. Well, there's no doubt from that angle, Andre Schmiel is second. And Bortolami has collapsed after the finish, and I am not surprised. He has ridden for everyone in his team today except himself. And Bortolami taking 10th place on the result as well. And Gianluca Bortolami has come of age after his World Cup victory last year. That was his big season, and I think this season could be even bigger. The Mappe team have had a great day today. They've conquered Paris-Roubaix. There's Nelson, he has finished in 16th place. And what about George Hincapie? He rode a brilliant race today as well.
George, you had a marvellous race today. You were with that lead group almost until the end.
Yeah, I mean, I felt really good. Just the second to last pavé section was, you know, I was pretty tired, but I'm happy with what I did. Before the race started, I told you I wanted to get top 20, and I did that. So, you know, getting better every year. We'll see what happens next year.
Well, the bad news is, George, you didn't get top 20. You finished 21st, but don't worry about it. I'm sure you'll be back and you'll finish higher than that. What about Steve Bauer?
Steve, you had a really great race. You were always in the thick of the action all day until just before the end. What happened?
Well, I rode a strong race. When there was a breakaway up the road, I was attacking, trying to go across to it, you know. I thought it was worthwhile to make the effort then, but just after Sizhuang, a second sector, after Sizhuang, about 20 kilometers to finish, I punctured my front wheel. I got a tire change. I made a big effort to come back to the first chase group, and I left a bit of energy on the road there, you know, chasing back on, and subsequently I lost contact with that group, and then I was chasing for the rest of the race. But I think without the flat tire, I would have been in the race for second place there.
The trouble was that once the Mappe boys established their lead, they really took a stranglehold of all the tactics on the race, didn't they?
Well, I think Johan Museeuw was a fantastic teammate for the guys that were up the road there. I mean, everything that was going, he was on it. You know, he was just so strong. He wouldn't let anything go except his own teammate, and that's what happened. I mean, only his teammates went up the road, and nobody else moved. He was so strong.
But at the end of the day, Motorola had a great race. They had so many men up there. Yates, George Hincapie rode superbly, yourself. I mean, it seems to me the older you two get, Yates and Bauer, the better you get.
Well, it's, you know, this is our type of race. I mean, I think we did a good race. Maybe without Johan Museeuw, we would have been up the road in a breakaway and chasing down Franco Ballerini, but like I said, Johan, he controlled everything. We did our best to make a move and go across, but there's nothing to do.
And for Steve Bauer, a 17th place today, and for this man, after knowing what it's like to finish third and second, Franco Ballerini finally gets his big victory in Paris-Roubaix. He'll remember it for the rest of his days. And there it is, the cobblestone that the winner of Paris-Roubaix this year, Franco Ballerini, will get to take home, and he will treasure it. He's finally got his hands on it. The result then, after this great victory, was Franco Ballerini winning by 1 minute and 56 seconds ahead of the next 4 men home, Schmil, Museu, Yekimov and Capio. The main field coming in over 2 minutes and 6 minutes behind.
As the crowd walks away from the old velodrome here in Roubaix, well, the track has found itself a new hero in the Italian Franco Ballerini. I don't think anybody here on what was a large crowd could ever deny that man his victory in the 93rd edition of Paris-Roubaix. The team made it for him, and it just shows you when you're a great favourite, like Johan Museu certainly was, what a great domestique, a helper he turned out to be when it came to blocking off the rest, while Ballerini won the day for his Italian Mappe team. Until the next time, on behalf of World Cycling Productions, I'm Phil Liggett saying goodbye.